Danny watches a lot of television and movies. John does not. Listen in as she tells him about what she's watching, and he tries to make sense of it all. Welcome to Watching My Stories with Danny and John.
And we're back. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, no.
Hi, everybody.
I just wanted to take a short break, and this one over here just, I don't know.
I went nuts and did all kinds of stuff.
Just remortgaged a house or something.
Oh, that's what I forgot. Did everything else, though.
Okay, so if you're just joining us, this is just finishing up some TV stuff from our previous episode. If you are following up on our previous episode, welcome back, and we're going to get right into it. We are not going to do an Actor's Corner this week because there was so much to cover, but we will get back into that in 2 weeks when we return.
Okay,
so the next TV deal I want to talk about is a comedy special on Netflix. Leslie Jones, and her comedy special is called Time Machine this time.
Oh, yeah. I never saw that.
I know you
You
did.
talked about it, and
Yeah.
I meant to do it, and I forgot.
I'll rewatch it. It's hysterical. It's Leslie Jones. If you don't know who she is, she was on SNL, and she was in the latest Ghostbusters, and we love her here, and she's hysterical. And this is a great stand-up. She's super physical. She's just funny. Oh my God. There are some parts where I was laughing hysterically. She just does her thing, and it's perfect and wonderful. And yeah. So, I highly recommend it. I think it was only an hour, a little bit less. And if you like her, you'll love it. If you don't know, I would recommend it because this is different than if you only know her like from SNL. I think you should watch this because you'll get to know her more and just see what she's about. And she's hysterical and she's fantastic. And you know she's I don't even know how to say it, but I love her and I love what she kind of puts out there all the time. And this one's good because she talks about some really funny stuff about, like, it's called Time Machine, and so she'll talk about different times in her life, and one was a Grammys after party when Prince shows up. Oh my God, it was hysterical. It was so funny, and the physicality that she does, I mean, it's just perfect.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll rewatch it so you can see it because I really would love to watch it again.
Yeah, and I want to see it because I like her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so that's on Netflix. The next Netflix is another docuseries I watched called Killer Inside, The Mind of Aaron Hernandez. I think a lot of people have watched this over the last month or so. This was super fascinating to me. I am not a sports person. In fact, from what I hear, today is Super Bowl Sunday.
Yes.
So
You.
as far as I'm concerned, it's J-Lo 10-minute concert day to me. But
in the middle of a football game.
yeah, I wouldn't know.
Yeah. The rumors are true. Today is Super Bowl Sunday.
Okay, so this guy, I guess, was a football player.
Yes.
No, what I knew about Aaron Hernandez before this was all I had heard was obviously when he got arrested and when he killed himself. And then I had heard about the CTE that they had found in him. That was kind of it. There was no real connection to me of who he played for, what he was arrested for, or any of that sort of stuff. So this dives into all of it. His whole football career, what he did outside of that, a little bit about where he came from and how he grew up in Connecticut. And really it's kind of presented as a puzzle of what could have made this person do what he did.
What happened to get here?
Right.
Yep.
So the short story is, as far as we know, he killed a couple people on the streets in Boston one night. And then a few years later, he killed this guy, Odin Lloyd. Oh, I hate to get his name wrong. I'm sorry, everyone. But it was his fiance's sister's boyfriend, and they were close friends, and they knew each other well. And shot him dead. So as far as we know, it's just these three people. Looking back, there are stories of things that might have happened in Florida when he was in college there, but no one can blame him exactly. So yeah, it's kind of what made this what seemed to be a normal guy in most people's worlds,
Who had everything.
who literally had everything. And literally, when he killed the two people on the road, it was within a couple days that he was signed for the 40 million or whatever. So if he had been found then, for those first murders, obviously the last murder would have never happened, but also that whole deal would have gone down. But again, what makes it okay for someone to do such a thing and then literally in a couple days go in front of everyone and in front of your bosses and just sign a contract and go on living life the way you live it, you know? Anyway, so it's kind of the question of, did he have a rough life? It wasn't so rough. His dad was rough. His dad was tough. There's questions about if he was gay or not. There's a friend from high school that says they had a relationship all through high school, even though they both covered it up. There are questions as to, is that why he killed Odin? Possibly because he found him in a relationship or in some sort of act. No one really knows. Then there's also the CTE, which they put at the end in a very small amount of time. In my opinion, one of the main reasons I do not watch football and will not be watching today is because of that. And so I wanted it to be a bigger play, but I can see that people don't want to just give him the excuse of having CTE for killing people. Like they don't want to just write it off to that. But his brain was found to have the most advanced case of CTE found to date, and he was only 28 or something like that. Yeah. So his brain was not functioning, that's for sure. But does that really excuse? I think you also have to put some sort of psychosis along with it. Which is just going to make a bad situation all the way around.
Yeah, because not every ex-football player goes and does awful things.
Right.
So there's got to be some psychoses, especially since he was so young. I mean,
right.
At what point that CTE wasn't always there, and who knows?
They believe that it was probably getting to that point for 10 years. So it would have. I mean, look, you get hit as a child, it's starting.
Sure,
so
100%.
You know, but yeah, it had been developing, the doctor said, for probably a decade. But yes, you don't want to give it all of that. But anger, poor judgment, a lot of the things that you could put on a psychosis is also CTE symptoms. So, but I'm not going to do that either. You can't be the way he did it, and that he did it multiple times. Yeah, you have to have some, because literally, like, they have video. So the guy, Aaron Hernandez, he didn't scrub any of his home videos. So he had cameras in every room and all around the outside of his house. And so after killing Odin, him and his two people that were involved with him went back to his house. They were fine. You see him walking around with a gun, like, where is he going to put it? Then he's got a baby, and they're bouncing his baby. His friends have the baby on his chest. And, you know, like, they went home and they were fine. You know what I mean? That's not just CTE. You know, I think CTE would probably make you so angry you couldn't come down from it.
That's psychopathic.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, there's a lot to the story, which is why I found this series very interesting, because, you know, I find this interesting anyways. I always have this thing. I love these murder shows because I'm so intrigued by what actually is the difference between someone who murders and someone who chooses not to. And so watching this And, again, seeing someone who you think has it all, but is he covering up homosexuality and he's afraid of that? Is he, he had a really horrible mother. He because he was so much younger than all the other players, like he got to his first Super Bowl at 20 years old. He didn't hang out with all the other players. He actually just went home and would hang out with his friends that he grew up with. So again, that kind of keeps you in a different vibe and in a different, he didn't mature the way that I think a lot of players have the opportunity to. So, there's a lot of things to it, and how much is true and how much isn't, how much can we rely on some people and how much shouldn't we rely on some people, who knows? But it's presented that way. It's not presented to say, well, this one guy says they had a relationship in high school, so you need to believe it. It's, he says it. You choose to believe whatever you want to believe.
Here's the evidence.
Right.
Make your own determination.
But there is something to be said that the gay issue came out. Another journalist, quote unquote, which she's not, went on a radio station while he was in jail and said, we've found that he is gay. We found people he's had relationships with, whatever. And they were actually really horrible about it. And they were actually pretty gay bashing on this whole thing. And 2 days later, he killed himself. So, he had been acquitted from he had been found not guilty from the first 2 murders. He had just gone through that trial. He was in appeals for Odin's trial. Or for that conviction. And this thing comes out on the radio, and that seems to be the thing that sets him overboard. Is that because it was true and he couldn't really handle that getting out? Or is that just another another thing stacked on a high tower of crap that he was dealing with, Yeah. You never know. And I don't really care. I feel bad if that's really the case. There is another NFL player who came out after he left the NFL. And so he talks about how horrible it is to have to be closeted and that you have to be closeted and all that sort of stuff. So he does talk about how bad it feels. And of course, I would feel bad if that was another thing that he was having to deal with on top of everything else that it seems like he was dealing with. And he left behind his daughter. And, I'm just glad that the family allowed his brain to be looked at. And, you got to hope that something good's going to come out of that at some point, right?
Well, yeah, yes. So I think the good thing here is, up until now, it's always been, CTE is being discovered later in life in these ex-football players and that sort of thing.
Right.
At 27, 28, you could argue that would have been the prime of his career. So to have the worst case of CTE on record in somebody that's in the prime of their career, I think should be so eye-opening to the NFL.
Yeah.
That this isn't a problem for retired players.
Right.
It's happening at the beginning.
Well, yeah, like I said, the first hit you take as a little kid, it's starting.
Oh yeah.
So, and he talks about from prison, there's a lot of prison conversations that are recorded, and he talks about in college, it's starting with them pumping him up with this certain medication where he can't feel pain. And then he talks about how in the NFL it was supposed to be banned, but he says, but they gave it to me every week. So they're pumping these guys full of stuff so that they can go out and hit as hard as you see them hitting each other and hopefully not to feel pain. That doesn't mean their brain isn't getting jarred all over the place. If you don't know what CT is, in my opinion, go watch Concussion, the Will Smith movie, where he plays the doctor who discovered CTE. It's a really, really informative movie, but really interesting. And it was really the thing that set me over, that I said, okay, I'm not going to participate in any of that anymore. And it's not just football. It is any contact sport. Anytime your brain is being moved within your head, these things should stop. And I know after talking about cheer, but we talked about while we were watching cheer, these kids are getting concussions. None of that is safe. None of that is good. So yeah, it's definitely, and in this docuseries you see Kraft, what's his name, the owner of New England,
Robert Kraft.
Yeah, he dismisses CTE entirely, and he looks right at the camera and tells all the mothers that if they want their sons to be special, that they should be playing football.
Yeah,
so
I'll go on the record and say Robert Kraft is an asshole.
Well, Goodell is on there too, saying the same thing.
Yeah,
so,
well, yes, all of them.
Yeah, so my opinion is that it's not good for anyone, but you need to make your own decisions about that sort of stuff. Obviously, I think Aaron Hernandez is on one extreme side, but there's a lot of in between, and I think we'll be learning a lot more about that. Of course, they bring up Junior Seau in this, and they talk about a lot of the other people. And there's one guy who quit after his rookie year on here, Chris Borland, something like that, because that's when all the CTE stuff started coming out. And he was like, after his rookie season, he was a good player, and he gave up the whole contract and everything because he said, I had to give my brain health priority over everything else.
Well, there are a lot of players retiring very young. I mean, yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
look at Gronkowski. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And he can't spare a lot. But that's not true. He's actually been very, very smart with his money. He's actually in a really good spot. So I didn't really mean that. He comes off that way.
He comes off.
It's his it's his like persona to be dumb, but he's not.
His personality makes you think he's never really had much of a mind.
Right. But he's actually,
I'm sure he is.
Yeah, he's
And he was smart enough to retire young.
Because he did really, really good things with his money.
Even Borland signed a contract big enough and got a bonus big enough that he could retire after 1 year and be fine. Right. So the money doesn't have to be there. You don't have to have much of a career to have enough money. Now, if you want to live a lavish lifestyle, okay, you still need to do something. But there's several $1 million there to put away, and that's what I'm after. Right. So,
but then it does make you question people like Tom Brady or even Aaron Rodgers that are hanging on, and you think, what are you getting from this? Because, dude, you're hurting yourself more and more and more.
That starts to get into the psychology of the competitive nature, and that trumps a lot of stuff. These guys and their quarterbacks, so they get hit and they get concussions.
Yeah,
but it's not like a tight end that's out there getting hit every play, or a running back that's taken in the head every play.
You want to say that, but Brett Favre can't remember what he did yesterday. So it's quarterbacks are just as bad.
Sure, they can be. I think by position there are fewer quarterbacks than there are position players that have severe CTE.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I just think, because Brett has been so outspoken about what he's going through, we can't deny that. So I don't want it to really go into, I didn't want to jump on football and how much I don't agree with it, but I think, again, everyone obviously has to make their own decisions, but get informed and don't just listen to the NFL. Do your own work and really listen to the players who will say whether or not their kids would play. And just try and, everyone's not going to go to college. Everyone's not going to go pro. So is it worth putting your kids in jeopardy?
Well, and I think the good news about this Aaron Hernandez CTE results is now you have data that shows people, look, if your kid's not going to go to college, not going to go pro, there's still big danger because this obviously started way before college.
And violence and anger is a symptom of it, but again, not everyone is going through that. So there are a lot of players who do experience that. It's almost like all of a sudden they get PMS. Like all of a sudden these guys are walking around, they're so angry and they're so hormonal, or that's what it appears to be, because they can get really sad. They can get really it's just kind of everything changes, and they don't know what's going on. So it doesn't always express itself in violence. But because football is also just a violent sport, we see the most domestic violence in NFL players. Could all of that be linked as well?
Sure.
We'll see.
Yeah.
There's no way to know until they die. Until these doctors, they're trying to figure out how to get a test for it while they're alive. But for now, we don't know until they're dead.
Well, a test for it. Okay, great. It tells you somebody alive and in their prime has it.
Right.
Then what?
Right. Well,
how do you? It's a treatment to me is much more
sure
interesting than a test for results.
Sure.
I would just assume they have it, and how do you treat it?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And what level? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so that's on Netflix, Killer Inside the Mind of Aaron Hernandez. It's a very fascinating, intriguing docuseries because you do wonder. It's just very interesting. You know, it's one of those, and it's not about like the rise and fall of someone. It's just about, wow, dude, what happened? You know, so
sure.
So it's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a whodunit, it's a whydunit.
Yes, exactly. Good steal.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, next show I'm going to talk about is also Netflix, Grace and Frankie. This is the 6th season. There were 13 episodes. You have not watched it, so I'm not going to talk about it a lot because John does like this show, and you know. But so there's one more. There's a 7th season. They actually just started filming this week, and that is the final season. I'm glad for that. I think we could have gone on the final season a couple seasons ago. You and I did not enjoy the 5th season.
Okay.
Remember? You don't remember?
Nope.
We did not enjoy the 5th season.
I remember not enjoying the last season, but I don't remember specifically why.
Yeah. So it continued on into the 6th season a little bit. Not the same reason, but I really felt like they were pulling really hard to find things to do, to find things that would make it dramatic, to find things that make us want to keep watching. It felt like they were really trying really hard. You know, where those first 4 seasons, it was just kind of like getting to know them, and there was a bunch of stuff and the whole vibrator thing, and it was great. This season was so much more about the kids too, like June Diane's character. Like it was so much more about her than anyone, almost than any of the other kids, really. They were really trying to come up with drama for Saul and Martin Sheen's character, I don't remember, Robert, which was weird. It was like he gave $20,000 to the theater that he works with to save them, but he wanted to hide it from Saul, and it was like the whole season was that. Like, how could he hide it and manipulate and try and cover it up so Saul never found out? And it was like, that's really your big problem, you know?
Hey, that's
and Saul even got cancer during that, and it was still like, that wasn't the big deal. It was weird.
That's high drama for 2 retired people.
I guess it just, again, it felt, if that's where we're getting to, I don't need to keep watching that. Like, right. we've seen such better highs or lows, really. Yeah. And this whole one was, you know, Grace and Frankie now inventing a toilet that lifts a person up because it's hard to get up off the toilet. And that whole ride of them doing that, and they even go to Shark Tank and Shark Week. Wrong one.
That would be funny though.
Yeah. And again, it just felt a little manufactured. You know, it didn't feel as natural as it could. You know, she married Peter Gallagher at the end of last season. So it was that transition too of her now being married, and so she's not living with Frankie, and that all felt weird. That was just like, you're like 80-year-old women, and they were like, couldn't, you know, like Grace had to keep things from Frankie because she was afraid of hurting her feelings I was like, you're 80 years old. What is the problem here? Like, just be adults and tell someone, you know, it felt very weird to me.
Tell the truth, because you might not be able to tomorrow.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So anyway, by the end of the episode, they manufactured it all again that now Grace and Frankie are back together, and you know, so it you know, it was still, there were still a lot of enjoyable moments. I still enjoyed it. I still enjoyed watching it for the most part because I do like all of these characters. So I still enjoy watching them. But the underneath of it for me was just really, you know. But, and I will still watch the 7th season because I want to finish this out, and I like all of them, and I want to see hopefully all the kids get happy, and I want to see hopefully them all end just happy or dead, whichever.
Out of respect to everybody involved, you'll watch it.
Well, I do still enjoy. There's still funny moments, and even with Saul and Robert, still nothing going on. They're still, to me, my favorite. They're still the funniest. And Michael McKean came in this season. He was dating Frankie, and that was fun. That was a nice little addition there. So it's okay. Just. We'll see. And we'll see if you ever watch this season. I just like right afterwards, I didn't feel like watching it again with you, but maybe in a couple months I'll feel like, okay, I can rewatch it. Okay. Now. So I don't feel like I'm missing much. Not really. Like I could really fill you in on everything, but we'll see. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Okay, next show I want to get to is on Hulu, actually. It's called Shrill, and this is the second season, and there are 8 half-hour episodes of this. This stars Aidy Bryant. Mm-hmm. This also was a little bit of a letdown for me from the first season. The first season was so great. Yeah. It was all about just her character trying to, Aidy Bryant from SNL. So she's overweight, but her character in this, Annie, in the first season, it was kind of like her coming to terms with it and just being okay with herself, right? Mm-hmm. And so it felt very relatable. It felt very along the way empowering with her and all of that. And this season fell a little short with that because she was still with her boyfriend that she ended up with in the first season, which I didn't agree with entirely. And this season just felt like now she was all over the place. She had quit her job, and it felt like watching millennials because like she was literally going grocery shopping at her parents' house, and her boyfriend has no job, and he was just his boyfriend annoyed me throughout the entire thing. And spoiler alert, thank God she dumps him in the last like 5 minutes, and I was like, thank God. But, it was also kind of like she had never had a real boyfriend before. She had never dated someone for that long. So there's still that bit of you that you might think you're okay with yourself and you're empowering, but she was still sticking with this loser just because, So it was not as enjoyable for me for the second season. I still laughed a lot, and I still really like her and her character. I love her roommate. John Cameron Mitchell is in it. He plays her boss from Hedwig and the Angry Inch. Mm-hmm. And he's fantastic, and he sang in one of the later episodes, which I was just so happy to watch. So he was really funny in it. But I just, it felt like, I don't know if it was backsliding or it was stagnant. I don't know which of the two, but it just felt like, okay, something's got to happen now. I wasn't feeling an arc. I wasn't feeling like she was really changing or getting anything. So I don't know. It sounds like it was, what's the point of this? It felt, yeah. I mean, again, it could be a generational thing, and I'm just not understanding the struggle of these people. Oh no, you're too old for the show? I felt that already passed when Girls came out. I loved Girls, but I also had a hard time understanding what was going on some of the times. Oh man. So anyway, so that's Shrill. Again, I still think it's really worth watching the first season and then watch the second season because you kind of have to. But just it wasn't as good. I'm hoping they bump it up again for the third season. So if there is a third season. Next show is an NBC show, an actual network show. What? How did this happen? Yeah. First season ended just last week or whatever. Perfect Harmony. Oh yeah. And normally I wouldn't talk about this, but John is now watching the show, so I thought we'd talk about it. I can take part in this one. This is fantastic. Thank you for talking about this show. Yeah, so over Christmas we were trying to find things to watch over Christmas break, and I got you on The Unicorn first. Yes. I love The Unicorn on CBS. I don't know, I still can't believe I say that, but it is a fantastic show. So yeah. I got you caught up on The Unicorn. Yeah. But that's not over yet, so we're not really going to discuss that. But okay. Just let everyone know you love it. I do love it. Okay. So then when we were caught up on that, I was like, well, you love Bradley Whitford. Mm-hmm, you love Anna Camp. And I said, this is a pretty cute show. I've actually teared up a few times. Why don't we try Perfect Harmony? And so we have. And then I didn't realize it was only a 13-episode season, so there might not be a second one. But the season has ended. Yeah, I really hope there is a second season because it's a good show. It's a great ensemble. It's a great ensemble. It's light. Yeah.
There is singing in every episode.
Yeah.
So if you like, in a camp of Pitch Perfect and that sort of thing, there are elements of that.
Right.
And it is centered around a church choir.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be singing.
Yeah.
He was a music professor at Stanford or Harvard.
Princeton, I think.
Whoever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Bradley Whitford, his wife dies, and he finds himself in this little town. It's something Crowley Fork or something like that in Kentucky.
Yeah.
Because that's where his wife was from. And he was this major, well-known composer, conductor person, and he hears this horrible church choir. And so he goes in to try and fix them, and then he ends up staying in this town. And it's about, fish out of water story like we know. But these small town people and how they take him in and how he starts to learn from them, which is very heartwarming. Mm-hmm. But they're also quirky as hell. Mm-hmm. They've got a lot of weird things. And it's very cute and very funny.
And Bradley Whitford plays a fish out of water better than most.
Yeah.
He really does.
Yeah.
So he's great in this. Anna Camp is good. But
everyone's
this is
good. Yeah.
Well, that's just it. This is really the sum of the parts.
It really is, yeah.
It's such a good ensemble that
even the little boy is good.
Yeah, Cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's really good. So I enjoy it. It's not serious at all. It's very fluffy, but it's just really enjoyable and it's a pleasant half hour.
Exactly. Yeah. And like I said, I have cried sometimes. Sometimes it's so moving.
Sure.
When they start to sing, it becomes something else. Yeah. So I would recommend, even if there's not going to be a second season, which we don't know yet, but at least I haven't heard. I would recommend going onto NBC and watching these 13 episodes. It's very easy viewing,
and it goes fast.
It
really does go fast. It's a fast 6.5 hours of television.
Right.
It's going to be, it's very easy watch.
Yeah. So. That's Perfect Harmony on NBC.
Oh, there's more on the back page?
There's more on the back page.
Cow.
I know. Just 2 more.
We just flipped the page.
Okay, so I'll try and keep this short. But for people who know me, and if you've listened, I love the show, but it has come to an end, and that is Arrow.
Oh, okay.
So we just had the finale this past week. The series finale. So we had basically 7.5 seasons. I know they want to say 8, but it's very much a half season. I don't know how to say it. I love this show. It's my favorite of the Arrowverse shows. There probably won't be another show like Arrow. And so this week they had a tribute show first, the first hour, which was really wonderful, going back and seeing early episodes. And so now I'm like, I'm going to start this from the beginning again, because it's, for me, I haven't watched repeats, or I haven't gone back and watched anything. So it's been 8 years since I saw the beginning. And so I want to go back and watch from the beginning. And this is a show that it's dark. It's about a man and trying to save his city, and then other people that came in and helped him with it, and him learning how to take people in, eventually how to fall in love, and also how to still be a hero. And that's not an easy feat, but the show itself was also so good. It always had action. This was a show, and I'm not an action person. Like, I don't really, it's fine, whatever. But this show's action sequences, I always really loved, because I don't know why, I just always looked forward to the choreography, the lighting effects. They always had cool lighting effects. If he was using his bow and arrow, that always looked cool. It just always looked good, no matter who was doing it and how they put it together. It worked. It just always worked. So that's sad that that's gone. And not that the other CW shows don't have the action, but it doesn't feel the same. They're not filmed the same. They don't have the same look. So, it was a good ending. It ended exactly how I wanted. I wanted the last bit of this show to be Felicity and Oliver together, and they gave that to me. So I was very happy about that. And it's the start. You know, I mean, I think all of these other shows that seem to be more popular, The Flash is the most popular Arrowverse show. But I hope people give credit where credit is due and know that if Arrow hadn't been such a success, none of these other shows would be there. And there's a bunch more coming out. Greg Berlanti has a bunch of others that are going to be coming out. They're trying for a spin-off of Arrow with the women of Arrow. We got these last 2 episodes were about them, and they're trying for a spin-off of that. I haven't heard if it's been picked up or not. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of pay homage to this. This has been a very favorite show of mine for 8 years. Something that I don't miss and something that I always look forward to. So, and they gave, I mean, a lot of episodes because every season had like 22 or 24 episodes, and there's a lot. And there's a lot of story, and there's a lot, it never didn't make sense. It always worked. This latest crossover, we're still feeling in all these other shows. It's affected everything, and it's changed everything up, which is actually really nice. But yeah, they gave him a good hero's ending, and all well deserved.
Yeah, well, I don't know much about the show because I don't think I've seen more than 5 minutes of it.
Right.
But I do know that in talking to you about television every week, during the week, shows that were, you making comments about got to stay up for this, got to, record this. Arrow was your number one show, it seemed like.
Yeah, it was.
Aside from Handmaid's Tale.
Right. I will stay awake for Arrow. It's not something I watch while I'm working. It's not something that, it's definitely for me one of the ones that I sit and I watch, and nothing will distract me from it.
And there aren't a lot of those shows,
no,
it seems like.
There's a handful of
There are
those.
a lot that you have on while you're doing something else.
Right. Yeah.
And you have that ability. And I still don't know how you do that. Because if I have something on, I'm not aware of it being on because I'm doing what I'm doing, or I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm watching TV.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know how to have that on in the background. I'm still...
Yeah.
Whatever. But you have that unique ability that, you can do that, and somebody could quiz you on the show that you watched while you were doing work, and you can pass a quiz. It's remarkable, actually.
And there are some shows I will only watch while I'm working, because they're not good enough for me to sit there. And I actually have a couple for this weekend that I'm going to wait and I'm going to put on tomorrow while I'm working because, it's not worth me sitting there. But Arrow is definitely... it deserves all my attention. So, and I'm not a DC comic fan or, whatever. Like I love all the Marvel movies. I love these shows, whatever, but I am a big hero fan. What I love when I watch Marvel, or especially when I watch Arrow and these shows, I love when something is going wrong and I see people run towards it. And whether or not they have a costume on, or they're a regular person doing that or whatever, like I that's my favorite. I will always gravitate towards that sort of attitude.
It's very admirable.
Right. Yes. And Oliver Queen's character has, even though in the beginning he was going around and just killing everyone that he thought were bad people, he changed that up, but it was a mission to save his city. It was going in the wrong direction, and that's what he needed to do. And so there's always that underlying, he never wanted to be a hero. He didn't like being a hero. But he had to come to terms with that was the translation of the actions he was doing, and how to live a normal life. And it was always just a very interesting, they made it good. They made all the characters good. And the Felicity and Oliver thing, if people don't know, Emily Beck, she was signed on for a 1-day gig, and she came on and she shot that, or 1 episode gig. She shot that episode, and they saw the spark between the two of them, that she became the entire crux of this character of Oliver. She changed Oliver over all of these years, and it was everything. So all of us that just shipped the two of them and loved the two of them together, to think that it might not have been, because
it was totally by chance.
It was just as soon as he, and they showed it in this tribute show, just his face changing and his face lighting up when he saw her, and they saw that and they were smart enough to go, we might need to keep this sort of thing going, and it took seasons for them to actually get together, but it was always from that very first moment, you could tell, all of us could tell, because we're just like, oh my God, gotta get them together, so
right,
it was
right.
So anyway, I'm looking forward to rewatching it, because it's a lot of fun, and but it's also really well done.
Sure.
It's not kitschy at all,
Yeah,
like some of these can get.
Yeah, so it's really interesting to hear you talk about this because of how you view the difference between Marvel and DC. So to hear you say that
In the movies, the movies suck. DC movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between the DC movies and
they're two separate universes, first off.
I understand that, but your issue with the DC movies isn't because the universe they're in or whatever. It's
right.
how
they're
they're
just
made.
not good movies.
Right.
Yeah.
So to hear you be such a fan of anything DC.
Yeah. Right.
Is a testament to how good it probably is.
They did have fantastic in this last crossover though, which was Crisis on Infinite Earths. They had so many cameos because we were able to go to so many different Earths. So Robin was there. Burt Ward was there. What's his face from the original Batman? Robert Wool. From the original, from Michael Keaton. Yeah, he was in one of these because he was on an Earth somewhere.
Oh wow!
We went to Smallville with Tom Welling, and Tom Welling was Superman there. And the first crossover in these DC movie and DC TV universe. So there's a separate Flash. I forget the kid's name that plays Flash in the Justice League and in the DC movies, and he's getting his own Flash movie. Actually, I think I might have heard that maybe that wasn't happening. I forget. But then, of course, we have our Flash with Grant Gustin. And in this crossover, the movie Flash kid, he showed up, and he was with Grant Gustin, and they were like, who are you? I'm Flash. I'm Barry Allen. Oh, I'm Barry Allen. And it was like, for those of us that, for me personally, I've just been pissed that they were casting anyone else as the Flash in the movies, because it just made sense. Like, you just put Grant Gustin.
Yeah.
But so I think for those of us that have been like that and then wanting to just kind of ignore that we've got this great Flash here and they picked this other kid for the movies, to have them come together on the crossover, it was a moment for those of us that I think we're just like, oh, thank you for acknowledging that this weird kid is doing this. He's not weird, but just that this kid is
different.
Out there playing Barry Allen.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the crossover was a lot of fun because they had so many people coming in and doing it was a lot of fun.
Cool.
So anyway, so that's Arrow. I highly recommend going back and watching it. But that's all you can do. Last one, another show that we're very sad ended this week.
Yeah, I can see it from here, so I know I'm going to take part.
Yeah. The Good Place ended after 4 short seasons. Yeah.
Yep. I don't even know what to say.
Yeah, so The Good Place we've talked about on here before, after each season, how much we love it. And it's over.
It is.
So
I miss it already.
I know. I will be watching this show forever.
Yeah.
I already do. I put it on Netflix all the time.
I know. I hear the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if people don't know, this was a show that took us to what they called the Good Place, and then it turned out that was that was a trick, and the 4 leads that we loved, which were Eleanor, Chidi, Tahani, and Jason, that they were all actually in the bad place, and Michael is Ted Danson. Janet is Darcy Carden. She's not a robot. And so then it was all about how to get them to the good place. And so they started working on philosophy and how could they get there. And then it started to come out that the point system was actually way off, and
that nobody had gotten into the good place
for like
quite
500 years
or
something. And so by the time we got to this 4th season, it was them trying to convince the judge, who is Maya Rudolph, who's fantastic, that a new system needed to be put into place. Mm-hmm. And Chidi, being the philosophical genius that he is, had kind of come up with something. And so that's where we went this season, was what could really work as the good place? What does it mean for people? And what they came up with was basically, when you die, instead of just being judged automatically, good place, bad place, you'd go through a test system, and that would determine then. And so, and everyone that was already in the bad place also went through this test system again. So some people were actually being able to get to the good place finally. And it was working, and it worked for many, many Baramies. Yes. And then they had also realized that people in the good place became zombified, basically. Like, once you were in perfection forever and ever and ever and ever, you got really bored. And like, they started to lose their brain cells,
their
really.
minds.
Yeah.
Really.
So they came up with a whole nother thing then, that if you wanted to leave the good place too, you could. If you did everything you wanted to do, and you were done. If
you were at peace with it.
Right. That you could walk through the doors and just become part of the universe again. So I think what happens with this show is you can't talk about it without getting philosophical. You can't talk about it without putting your own spin on it, even. And I think that's part of the loveliness of the show.
That's just it. The way they did that final episode.
Right.
It was very subjective, and you cannot talk about it without having your own feeling about it.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and give my take on it.
Okay.
I don't view the show as anything about after death. I view the show as how life should be lived. I feel like I'm gonna take it into my own interpretation. Not that they meant it this way at all. Right. But what I took it as is, I can choose to live a good place on Earth or a bad place on Earth. And what's going to give me good points is me being out there and being kind and good and not doing some of the things that they have on there. And I mean, if you can go back and watch anytime they have point values on things and pause your screen, it's so perfect.
They're so creative.
Just, oh my God, this is the most creative show I've ever seen. Take a look at any of their props. Take a look at all the signs everywhere. Pay attention to the point systems and what they attach points to. It is the most wonderful gift. And I wish they would put out like a catalog or some kind of book of all of this background stuff that we probably missed and probably can't even see.
I bet somebody does that.
I hope they do. So anyway, so my thinking is, if I focus on just being good on Earth and all of that, that obviously makes me a good person, and I don't really care what happens after I die. I don't believe anything happens. But what I loved about the last episode was that it felt like, again, I felt like they were talking about when you're living. When you're living, do what you want to do. Find your bliss. Find your happy place while you're alive, so that by the time death is coming, and I know for some of us we don't get to choose when it happens, but you might find that peaceful calm already, because you know you did what you wanted to do, and you know you got to be in that good place while you were alive. And so for me, that's how I interpreted it, because especially when I saw Jason the first time and he was playing his game and he finally got the perfect score, and he just had that, you could see it right on him. It was just all of a sudden he had that look of, okay, I'm good. I want to be able to get to that place in life where I say, I've done everything. I'm happy. And we say that, if I die tomorrow, I'll be happy. But I want to actually be in that headspace of being happy enough with what I've done, what I've achieved, or what I want, or whatever it is that I choose for that list. Tahani had her whole bucket list, and she still went on and did different things, which I also loved what they did with Tahani's character. And to me, it's not even really a bucket list of like things to do. It really is more about internally and a feeling of being in my good place.
Satisfied and completion.
whatever I decide that is. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So to me, it felt like even watching that last episode, as they walked through the door to become again part of the universe, I wasn't even feeling like they were in the good place going to a universe place. I felt like it was them living and then being okay to die, you know? So it was like, I was definitely interpreting it in my own way. And I loved it though. I loved all of the show. It is the funniest. It is so funny. It is so super, super, super smart. I learned a lot from the show. I cannot wait to watch it and pick up more and more things.
Right.
I love, there's one line, and this should be a shirt too, of when Sean, who was head of the bad place, was talking about, I was just torturing Shakespeare by giving him the plot to the Entourage movie.
Yeah.
It's that sort of stuff that they came up with over and over and over and over and over again.
So clever.
All the time.
Yes, 100%.
And that's outside of all the philosophical crap, but it's like all the jokes are the jokiest jokes and the smartest jokes and the best jokes that we've had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's me on my whole trip.
Well,
now what's yours?
Yeah, so this is going to sound like a complete cop-out, but you just stole my thunder. That is 100% where I was.
Really?
100%.
I wonder if other people felt that way.
Oh,
then.
yeah, they have to. Because, yes, and it didn't really hit me until the final episode.
Right. That's me too. Yeah.
That halfway through the final episode, I'm like, okay, so right now they're living and they're coming up to this end.
Because, again, it was the episode before that where I started to get that inkling with Lisa Kudrow and stuff. And just thinking of how much we become zombified in our lives. Mm-hmm. We get up, we go to work, we do the same thing, we come home, we do and we're all in that space of just our day-to-day life instead of thinking about, but what makes us happy, what makes us fulfilled, what makes us okay. So that, if my obituary had to be written, is it that she did everything she wanted to do, or does she have a lot of regrets?
Right.
That's, to me, is the line between a good place and a bad place.
What will it take for you to actually achieve peace?
Right. Inner peace.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
So everything you said.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay.
And we didn't talk about it because we finished and we said, let's not talk about it. Let's wait till the podcast.
So when you were talking and you were looking at me, you had to see me smiling and shaking my head, right?
Yeah.
That's exactly why, is because, that's it. That's exactly it. That's exactly how I was feeling.
Right.
The only thing I have to add is, so you told me that they're going to be doing an auction or something for props.
No, I said I hope they do.
Oh, you hope they do?
I hope they do.
Okay. Yeah, because some of the props in the show were just fantastic, and the final episode with the Cheaty calendar.
Cheaty took that home. Yeah, I did read about that.
Oh, okay.
Because someone asked Kristen Bell if she kept the calendar, and she said no. I gave it to Cheaty to give to his girlfriend, and they have it. So so she has that,
because that would have gone for a lot.
Someone else, I think Darcy or someone, was saying they should market it and sell it, because I think I would buy it.
Yeah. I wouldn't.
I'd buy anything from this show. I would. Yes. I would buy anything from this show just to have a piece of it.
It seems to me there's something in the episode where Stephen Merchant was on, the chief accountant.
Yeah.
There was something in his office or around their office or something that would have been I don't remember what it was, but it would have gone for a lot.
Yeah.
So they should have, because kind of like what they did for Lost, right? That we went to, where they just had a final auction and we got some stuff.
Right. I would love it.
This show was just so good.
There's not enough, there aren't any words. Yeah. If you watched it, you understand that what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. And if you can go online and see some of these props up close, and if they were in a restaurant, the menus, every name of the shops, every name of these people were geniuses. They must have had so much fun working on this show, because they went nuts, and it's perfect. And And outside of that, again, this lesson that they were giving us, which I don't think we really understood until this end.
Yes.
You know, I'm just blown away. I'm blown away. And again, there will never be another show like this. I know now there's going to be a lot of copycats, and there seems to be like the God Friended Me or whatever that show is. And there's been a few of those that I think want to be on the philosophical tip or whatever.
The Steve Buscemi show and whatever it is. Yeah.
But this was a perfect cast. I mean, and even what they did with Michael, Ted Danson's character, and him becoming human. And you think, who would want to do that when they can be in the good place or whatever? Who would want to come down here and deal with this and all that? But I loved that they decided to do that because, again, it's that other reminder of you get to, we get to be here and have our free will and make these choices, whatever that might be.
Right. But there was something in it for everybody, because if you do believe in the afterlife,
right.
Ted Danson saying to, Darcy, don't worry, I'll see you again.
Right.
That's the
right. Well, where he will, because we know there's in the show they have the good place and the bad place still.
Right.
So
which is predominantly religious.
Right.
Right. So he'll see her again when he gets back and gets tested or judged or however you want to look at it.
And I think, even just the little sprinkle, like when Eleanor went through and the sprinkle of her
light
came back into the universe, the wave returning to the ocean, the fact that her sprinkle, that guy had thrown the piece of mail away and the sprinkle hit him and he was like, no, I should just go ahead and deliver it. That thought process of, energy being around that maybe helps you make a right decision or something like that. I thought that was a lovely little, another little thought, again, it was like every moment they thought of, even Jason, like hanging around waiting for Janet to come back, and he could have gone right back in and found her, but he was like, I just walked around and I found, and it's like that whole, everyone had a thing and it was all beautiful. And that speech from Chidi about the ocean, the wave and it returning to the ocean, it was one of the most beautiful things. If I had kids, I would memorize that to explain, life and death.
Sure.
Because it's a gorgeous thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it's a podcast and this is going to suck, but I don't have much more to say about it. It was
just go watch it.
Just go watch it.
If you didn't, go watch it.
You need to experience it for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And we will be rewatching over and over.
And oh, by the way, every episode was fantastically written and acted. And even if you don't deal with the philosophical, it was just a very entertaining show.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Oh, and what Darcy Carden did with Janet, who could have been this just, normal, like robotic thing. Somehow she gave life to her and became my favorite character of the whole bunch, and who changed the most over these 4 seasons.
Right.
When that shouldn't be possible, so everyone in this was so good and so wonderful, and I can't wait to see what anyone does next. But it was just perfect.
Yeah, and you got to give props to Sean.
Yes.
And the demons that, the bad place.
Vicky, they all did a great job.
And bad Janet.
And Glenn.
And shut up, Glenn.
Bad Janet. Yeah, you bad dink.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Adam Scott, when he was on, I mean, we had Lisa Kudrow and Maya Rudolph and what's his face that likes the frogs? What's his name?
I can never remember the guy's name.
But there were a lot of people who came on and had little bits, and they were all perfect.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
They really were.
I'm going to miss it, for sure.
Yep.
So I can't wait to see what Mike Schur does next, because every show of his is a hit. I love all of them. This one is the best out of all of them, but I can't wait to see what he comes up with next.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. So I think that's it. We managed to take up 2 hours today.
Whoa.
So sorry, everyone, but we are caught up.
Need a nap.
So we will be back in 2 weeks, and we will see what I watch in the meantime. The Oscars will be done, and we'll go from there.
And I'll be listening.
All right. Have a great 2 weeks, everyone. If we don't talk to you, I think that'll be right after Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, thank you.
And Until then, I'll be watching my stories.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, bye.